Okay. How does a Scrum Master manage conflict in the Scrum team? Well, one thing we have to get used to as Scrum Masters is conflict. Many people shy away from it. They see it as a bad thing, so they avoid it or ignore it. And like any relationship, if you don't have those conversations in the moment, they're just going to slowly sink below the surface and fester. Over time, they're going to come back. But they're going to come back when you least expect it or least want it. It's going to blow up. There's going to be an argument. People are going to resent each other. There's going to be bigger problems to deal with than if you take in the moment the opportunity to air that conflict. Conflict in and of itself is not a bad thing. I mean, yeah, if we're at the point of throwing chairs at each other and throwing punches, we've gone too far. But if it's about disagreement, if it's I'm putting my position across, I don't agree with you and this is why, in a respectful manner, then we're good. In fact, you've got a healthier team when they can manage this and enter conflict and exit conflict in a controlled fashion. Because now they've got the opportunity to improve on their ideas, the opportunity to seek agreement for innovation. Because in that conflict space, there is a great opportunity to have better ideas, the product of the two sides. How do we manage all of this? Well, as I said, first thing, get comfortable with it. I know it's not a comfortable topic. Many people don't want to, but work with it. Don't run away from it. Let it happen. In the worst situation in a professional environment, you're going to have somebody get upset. Okay? I think you'll survive. So let it happen. They're going to shout. Okay? Let it roll off your back. Accept it, acknowledge it. And in fact, that's often all we need to do, is just say, John, you don't seem to be happy with this. Do you want to take a moment and explain why? As a facilitator, be there, be present, acknowledge their feelings as you see them, and give them the space to vent it. Prevent personal attacks. Absolutely, across the board, it is not, John, you're rubbish. It's, this isn't going so well. I'm not a fan of that idea. Don't attack the person. Attack the ideas on the table. Conflict isn't easy to navigate, but once we start airing it, we realise it's not as scary as many people think. We work with decent people. In the main part, they want to get along. They want to do a good job. They just have entrenched views. Or maybe it's not entrenched, but they know they're right. That's okay. Somebody disagrees with them. Let it open. Let them say it. Let the other side speak. Okay? And your job in this is not to stop that conversation. It's to allow it to continue as long as it is additive, as long as it's creative, as long as it's constructive. Okay? When you suspect it's veering away from that, though, you need to be hard. This is where Scrum Masters can make a big difference, particularly in those early days as teams are learning how they enter conflict, what are the signs that people are unhappy, that they want to say something, while that safety within the team is being built. Your role here is to help them understand it is safe to disagree, and part of that is going to be strong facilitation. If things are veering off course, if they're moving to a negative or a destructive conversation, you need to get in there, you need to stop it. Remotely, we're fortunate. Mute them. Give them warning, but you can mute them. You can stop the conversation. In the room, you need to be forceful in your personality and get across that this isn't acceptable. If it goes too far, I would always recommend pause the meeting. Just give everybody a moment, send them off, get a coffee, and have a chat with the one or two people that maybe need to adjust their behaviour. Taking all of that on board, what you've got to remember is conflict isn't bad. Okay? It's not as scary as we think it is. We often fear far more than the truth. So, let it happen. Let people explore their space. Let people be heard. Okay? So we've got conflict, we've got at least two sides. Let everybody have their say. Okay? And let them have it Don't let others interrupt and interfere. They've had their say, the other side's had their say. Okay, now we need to seek some sort of agreement in the middle. What we're going to do is always go to the team, let them talk about it. Very often I'll ask the two parties that are leading the conflict, for want of a better phrase, I'll ask them to be quiet. Not because I don't value their input, but because they've had an opportunity and I value everybody else's equally. So I want to hear what other people have to say. And in that conversation, very often a third option will appear that is some sort of blend of the first two. It's a more creative, innovative idea that both parties can get on board. Sometimes one party wins. If all else fails and you still have conflict, you have two people who are disagreeing, this is where the importance of your team setup comes in. In that setup, I'm sure you came up with a way to make decisions when you can't decide. How do the team make that decision at the end of the day? Your decider protocol. That's what you bring to the table. Okay, we're clearly not going to agree on this topic. We have two equally good answers on the table. The decider protocol is a majority vote. So show of hands, which way do we go? Good enough. But, and I can't stress this enough, that has to have been done before the meeting, before you've entered these conflict states. So as part of your team startup, your setup, your launch, make sure that you decide how to decide so that when it comes to conflict, if those tools and techniques aren't working, you can at least make a decision and keep moving. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.